Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to more villains. Ranking the villains of X-Men Marvel United. We are in the top tier now. Today I'm doing 6 of the final ones. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6. And then the next video we'll be doing the final 5, my 5 favorite villains. Villains, these are all villains I love playing against. Remember, I'm not ranking these based on how hard they are because today we're talking about 2 that have whooped me every single time I played them. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to take a look here at Mr. Sinister, who in the comics is probably my favorite X-Men villain. Here he's number 11, which is still pretty good. I really like playing against him. He hands out these tokens here, DNA samples, and they're split between the heroes, which, by the way, makes them incidentally very difficult in a blue versus gold game. But if he gets all the DNA tokens, he'll win. So he's going to move heroes closer to him on a BAM. So you're constantly moving close to him, and then he takes a DNA token. Which means once you can punch him in the face, that's fantastic. He needs to take 9 of these to win. And sometimes he just plays this genetic card and takes them away from you. Other times he makes you discard your hand if you have 2 or more cards and draw your hand back with 1 less card. Some locations you play your card randomly, some locations you can't play special effects on your cards, and some you need to get rid of these morphing or he can't take any damage. I should also mention, I love his miniature. Look at all those noodles coming out of him in the back, but he'll look really good when he's painted. Mr. Sinister, one of my favorite characters, but in this game also really a solid one to play against. He's made to fight mutants. I like that. Just very interesting. On to the top 10, starting with Dr. Doom from the Fantastic Four, who can be a hero, and you'll see him on my hero list. I love playing Dr. Doom because his starting location always has to be Latveria, which normally starts with 3 thugs. Here, it starts with Doombots, which essentially are the same as thugs. You can fight them. But if there's Doombots in his location, he can't be damaged. Now, he's also giving crisis tokens where you can forfeit an action to get rid of those. And Doombots, though, will do damage to everybody when Dr. Doom plays a BAM. So you got to be careful with them. He's also running this track here. When it reaches 20, the heroes lose. He's just, I don't know, he's just very interesting to play against. And he has all kinds of special cards here that you increase a Doom track by the number of crisis tokens the heroes have. Then someone takes a crisis token. Turn civilians into Doombots. You must surrender rituals. Each hero chooses to discard a card from deck or to the bottom of their deck or take a crisis token. So I like that. I like this. There's only 5 cards here because you don't start with 1 in Latvia. Here you take a damage for each thug or Doombot in this location. You got self-destructing ones. When you defeat them there, you take a damage. We want to get rid of these as possible, but then these additional armors are a real pain in the neck because Doombots take 2 more damage. And here, when you add the auto-assembly, when you add Doombots there, you add 1 more. I don't know, I like this idea. The Doombots are just scattering around the board, and you gotta stop them. And Overflow is also increasing the Doom track. He's just a really fun villain for me to go against. And yet, he's still number 10. I wasn't expecting to like Mastermind. Yeah, I don't like him in the comics that much, but he is my play style. So he's a bunch of, typical things. He plays cards faster than normal. You can't damage him when there's crisis tokens, but heroes can use fight actions to get rid of crisis tokens. There's slow terrain on the card, ignore action cards, and if you start there, you have to discard a card, which is not great. But what I love about him, I should also mention his illusional duplicates, where you're putting crisis tokens in his thing. So that's kind of fun. You got to get rid of them first. His BAM. He does 1 damage to every hero. But if there's still cards in the deck, you call it a number from 0 to 5. So we do that. We shuffle the card. Everyone who takes the damage, I'm like, 4. Nope, I still take the damage. 3. Nope, I still take the damage. 2. But if you do call out the number, you don't get damage. I know. That's silly. But here's the thing. You can see what cards have already been played. Your mathematical probabilities get higher as time goes by. I just think that's so much fun. I don't know why. But that's just entertaining to me to try to avoid damage from the Mastermind. But I also like the duplicates and trying to get rid of them. Yeah, Mastermind, my number 9. Now we have the Toad Bob and Pyro, 3 villains together. And if you know anything about me, you know I like multiple villains in the same game, and this is going to be no exception to that. When you draw the Mastermind card, it's going to move different ones. This moves Toad and Blob. This moves Bob and Pyro. Blob doesn't move a lot of times. He sits where he's at, but he's still going to activate. They'll activate their BAMs. So we have the 3 miniatures for each of them, so it's fun to have those miniatures on the board. But each one does something very different. Toad moves heroes and drags them into his thing and does a damage to them. Blob just hits people, but he's very hard to damage. Pyro starts putting crisis tokens and filling up different locations. So that's a very annoying thing to do, and they're going to start in different locations. Blob starts in the villain's starting location, and the other ones start almost adjacent, or not almost adjacent to the heroes. And then you have cards that affect each of them. So solid ground, there's 2 locations of Blob's there. He can't take damage. Oh, such a pain. You want to know how often he ends up there? All the time. Toad, if this is in play, Toad runs away and negates all damage. So you need to get rid of these to even touch Toad. And then flammable materials, this doesn't have, this has Pyro's thing there, but basically to get rid of crisis tokens, which you can normally get rid of with a heroic action that Toad's putting everywhere, they cost 2 instead of 1. These, I think, are the least annoying, I suppose. You need to get rid of these or you're not going to be able to defeat all the characters, but you're going to defeat them one by one. So you only activate them when a hero is KO'd. They just draw extra cards. But you got to take down these 3 guys. They're tougher than they look. Well, I shouldn't say that. I think they're pretty tough. They don't have a ton of hit points, but oh man. It's just interesting to me to see the 3 different characters to decide who to take out first. Usually, you're just trying to solve things and you're trying to make Toad and Blob available to fight at, hit them at all. You might end up killing Pyro first. I don't know. Either way, it's one of my favorite villains to fight. Now we have Apocalypse, who I think you could make an argument for him being the hardest character in the game, maybe other than Thanos. And he comes in his own set, and he comes with the 4 horsemen. We got Famine, War, Pestilence, and Death, which, by the way, all very cool miniatures. Neat. So you can fight Apocalypse by himself, or you can fight the 4 horsemen first. But if you don't fight the 4 horsemen first, there's going to be a problem. So when you fight the 4 horsemen, it's kind of an interesting way to play. What you're going to do is they're going to draw some cards, and you just have to survive through the cards. And you will either beat or lose to each of these. And you're going to go through the whole thing no matter what. And I do like that because there's no resets. As you go through, each of them has a goal that's mentioned here. So for example, if 3 locations are fully occupied or Christ took at the end of a turn, they succeed. So you're going to see each one succeeds or not. And this is going to matter because when Apocalypse comes to fight you, they're going to be on his side. And they're going to come and they're going to either be in their weakened form, which is if you defeated them, or a non-weakened form, which is if they defeated you. So this is the board that you use when you fight the Horseman Apocalypse. It tells you how to do it. You can immediately start. You can't damage them. They're going to be moving pretty quickly, but you're trying not to get KO'd by death. You're just fighting them. Apocalypse himself has a track here, and on his track you're going to have 2 markers. One is him moving. He has no damage. You have to just make every time you damage him, you move your marker on a track, and your marker needs to surpass him. And if his marker gets to 16, he wins. He's very deadly, very dangerous. Starts with a master plan. He has a starting master plan, and also has all sorts of stuff that's going to move. War Unleashed, Pestilence Unleashed, Death Unleashed. The first 2 horsemen activate their BAM in any order. He's really hard. I haven't even come a little close to beating him. But I like the pre-battle against the horsemen. I find it to be really fun. And then when you fight Apocalypse, by the way, he starts with Apocalypse Pyramid. That's where he starts. You start in the Starlit Citadel. So that's kind of a fun, I don't know, it just feels epic. It is epic. And maybe you don't lose, I do. But I had fun along the way. Welcome to Murder World. By the way, you can use Murder World as his starting location, which decreases his health, which is 6, 9, 11, pretty high. Unfortunately, Murder World doesn't come in the set that Arcade comes in. It comes in X-Force. I'm not sure why. Arcade is so unique and interesting, which is why he's high on my list. You'll notice he has more threat cards than anybody else. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think he has double threat cards. You'll put these face down at locations. When you move into one, you will flip it over. And when it's revealed, the entering hero takes 2 crisis tokens. Or here, the entering hero can no longer use move this turn. It takes a crisis token. Here, the entering hero takes as many crisis tokens as the number of civilians at this location. So it's only the revealing person that does it. You can see defeating these crises isn't so bad. You can get rid of them, and it's not so hard. The problem is he's constantly bringing them back with the quick rebuild. Place top card in the first location with no threats. Sometimes he shuffles them all and places them face down. So you're going around and doing this, and he's putting crisis tokens, and you take damage whenever he does his ban for the crisis tokens you have. He doesn't deal damage to you directly. But whenever he does do a BAM, you turn threat cards face down. So when you turn a threat card face up, you need to try to finish it as quickly as possible. And whenever a hero's KO'd, which is going to happen by various things, he gets a crisis token, and when he gets 4, he wins the game. I don't know why this one appeals to me so much. I just think it's fun to, you're moving around. Arcade was always one of my favorite villains. For a long time in the Marvel Universe, he's one of the most ineffective villains there was until in the last decade or so, they made him much more vicious. But in this, it's just so fascinating with these cards. It can be frustrating when the cards get flipped back over, but it has this idea of we got to escape, we got to get done. And before he gets this, it's just a very enjoyable character. Also, a well-dressed man. Look at that hat and bow tie. I like Arcade a lot. I'm glad that some of my favorite villains are also some of the most iconic. I mean, Dr. Doom, Mr. Sinister, Apocalypse are 3 of the most iconic X-Men villains. Well, Dr. Doom's a Fantastic Four villain, but still, they're some of the most iconic villains in the series. I also like playing them. I was surprised to see Mastermind go so high, and these are just a bunch of henchmen running around. But combined, very fun to play against, and of course, Arcade. We got 5 more villains. We'll be talking about those in our next one, my 5 favorite villains. But until then, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.